And we are live. Der Klassiker
Yeah.
weekend. Biggest game in Germany.
Yeah.
Come
Definitely.
on, Bayern.
No, mate. I tell you, look, it's one of those, isn't it? I mean, we have all the classic derbies over here. You know, El Clasico, things like that. In Spain, we have obviously the Manchester derby, the Liverpool derbies. Obviously, Newcastle are no stranger to being involved in big derbies as well. Obviously, not this season, but this is a big one around Europe, and it's going to be a big one this weekend, I think.
Yeah, obviously you just mentioned the Newcastle games. I've got to mention that obviously we haven't had a derby for a while now. Sunderland down in League One, Middlesbrough down in the Championship. We don't want to be down there. We want to be in the Premier League, and I think I'm quite happy that we don't have another derby for at least another couple of seasons. So I don't really mind, to be honest with you. But yeah, the Bayern Munich game. Obviously, both sides in good form at the minute. Dortmund won 4, lost 1. Sorry, drawn 1 of the last 5. Bayern won 3, drawn 1, lost 1. So it's going to be a tasty game. I think it's going to be a good game to watch.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think also, I mean, I'd say Bayern in decent form, but you know they have shown some vulnerabilities, obviously, of late, haven't they? I think they were 3-1 down to Arminia Bielefeld or something, weren't they, a couple of weeks ago, and managed to scrape back for a draw. You know, but again in Europe they look really good against Lazio, but then like Dortmund's just had a very difficult season, full stop. Obviously, losing the manager halfway through the season never helps. The guy who's in temporary charge is obviously, you know, he's not exactly had the impact that you'd want him to have. But like you said, recent form they have picked up, and I think they're all waiting now till the summer when I think Marco Rose will be the new Dortmund manager. Obviously, current Borussia.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear that about obviously the Mönchengladbach manager. They're doing pretty well. Well, they were last night, but yeah, I thought pretty disappointed to hear that. But I can see why he's doing it as well. He sees it as a step up. You know what I mean? So I can see why he's doing it.
I think, and if you look at Dortmund's recent sort of appointments with managers, with the exception of obviously the last manager. They have tried to give young German managers obviously an opportunity. Obviously, going back to Jurgen Klopp was in charge there, and then obviously Thomas Tuchel had the job, and and now obviously Marco Rose I think is the next chip off the block in terms of, with the exception of Julian Nagelsmann, who I think sees his future somewhere else in Europe after his time at RB Leipzig. I think Marco Rose is probably the next man to sort of take on the job, and I think it's exciting. I think he's got some really good ideas at Mönchengladbach. I think they play a really good brand of football. I think he's been sort of exceeding expectations with that squad. I think he's got a very good sort of front three, and he's got a couple of good midfielders. But on the whole, it's not a stronger squad as the likes of Borussia Dortmund and Bayern, but yet they have been competing with those teams for the last couple of years. You know, they've even been in title races in the last couple of years, but obviously faded away towards the end, like everybody seems to your Wonder Boys over in Bavaria. But I think it'll be interesting to see how he does, and then obviously he may see that as a stepping stone to then go and take his managerial career into Europe, like the other ones that have before him.
Yeah, like the two shells of the world, you know. Obviously, he started. Klopp as well, yeah. Last 2 games, Dortmund, Bayern Munich have ended 3-2. So we are expecting goals in this one, hopefully. I mean, I've got a feeling that Dortmund have actually figured out how Bayern play, because they've never really changed the way of playing since Kovac left and Flick took over. Flick's got them moving the ball about nicely. They've got some good pace on the wings as well, and they've got obviously the deadly striker in Lewandowski as well. But yeah, I mean, Dortmund always seem to struggle when it comes up against Bayern. The last time they won was the Super Cup in 2018 when they won 2-0. Do you see Dortmund struggling?
I see Dortmund struggling because, I think in the end, Bayern, especially in the last few games, in the last couple of seasons, Bayern just seem to have just a bit too much for Dortmund. They always seem to be good, close games, like you say, entertaining games. There's no doubt that Dortmund can hurt them, especially going forward, because if you look at the talent in this Dortmund team, it is all up front. You know, the likes of Jadon Sancho, Erling Haaland, you know, they can be deadly in the forward areas. Marco Reus, people like that. That's where all the threat is with this team. But you just feel that obviously Bayern's probably got one of the better defences in the league, and therefore, if anybody's obviously equipped to deal with the Dortmund threat going forward, it'll be Bayern. And then obviously, you know, Bayern aren't short of attacking quality themselves, are they, with the likes of Lewandowski and obviously Sane and Gnabry and people like that. And I do think that that's where the games have been decided over that. It's kind of been like, if it goes down to who outscores who, Bayern will always probably just nick it because they have slightly the better defence, not because there's a lot in the attacks. I think the attacks are very similar in terms of talent, but in terms of defence, I think Bayern's is just slightly better than Dortmund. You look at Dortmund's, it's now got Mats Hummels in there, who obviously his best years were at his first stint at Dortmund and obviously at Bayern Munich. And obviously they have Zagadou who plays in there. They've got my mind's gone blank, but the young Swiss lad who plays centre back as well. I can't remember his name, but obviously, they're not as strong basically at the back as what Bayern are. And I think that's just been the difference in the last couple of the Klassikers. And I'll be honest with you, I think from a Dortmund fan's point of view, I think it'll be a bit clearer this week from Bayern. Believe it or not, like you say, Dortmund are in good form. But if you look at the season on a whole, Bayern are having a much better season to Dortmund. The last couple of the Klassikers, I would hazard a guess that have probably been either first against second, second against third, something like that, I would imagine.
Whereas they've always been in the top four sort of thing.
Yeah, this one now, I know Dortmund at the moment is slightly just outside the top four, I think. Obviously, Bayern are top. So I see Bayern winning this one probably by a couple of goals, and that'll probably either be 3-1 or 2-0 or something like that.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, obviously, you've mentioned, Sane. Personally, I don't think he'll start. I think he'll be on the bench.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, the starting 11 picks itself. Sane is never guaranteed a starting place, but when you look at the team that'll get picked, I think on the wing, you'll probably have Gnabry and what was the other player? I've forgotten his name now. What was his name?
Oh, yeah. Coleman. Kingsley Coleman, yeah.
Coleman, that's him. I can never remember his name. Right. But yeah, I can remember. I imagine them two on the wing, Muller in the middle, Kimmich and Goretzka behind him.
Yeah.
Behind Lewandowski. So, I mean, that front 5 or 6 always picks itself, and Sane, unfortunately, always ends up on the bench. I mean, Coleman didn't start against the who they played the last game? Cologne. He was rested. Yeah, he was rested. So obviously, Flick had that in mind that the Klassiker was this weekend. So put him on the bench. I mean, that tells me that Coleman's probably going to start the game.
Coleman's career has just it's changed for the better over the last sort of 12 months. If you think back to last summer, it looked like he may leave Bayern. He was quite heavily linked with United as a sort of Manchester United. That is,
he still is linked with Man United for some reason or other, but I can't see him moving.
The weird thing about Coleman and the links with Manchester United, it always seems to be that it's been a backup option to Jadon Sancho. So obviously United, we all know that United want to sign Jadon Sancho, and it's almost been that Coleman's one of those options. If they don't get Sancho, they may go for him. Similar with like Ousmane Dembele at Barcelona, who incidentally used to be a Borussia Dortmund player. You know, Ousmane Dembele is another name that United have looked at as a second choice, but Coleman's sort of elevated himself since last summer and those rumours, because if you think about it, he scored the winning goal in the Champions League final, didn't he, for Bayern? And it's really given him a springboard for his career, and to a point now where you say he's a starter for Bayern, and that wasn't the case 12 months ago. And, you know, as a Manchester United fan as well, I'm looking at it thinking, you know, should Coleman be the backup option to Jadon Sancho, or should United be looking at Coleman? Because, like I say, his rise has been so big, and there is talk that he'd be open to a new challenge and to come to England. He's got a lot of friends in the Manchester United squad as well. He's very good friends with the likes of Anthony Martial and Paul Pogba and people like that. His French teammates, But look, fair play to him, because I did think that he was a sort of one of those players who he was sort of a little bit like Douglas Costa. I thought he'd have to go out on a couple of loans. I just didn't think he was going to be. I thought when Sané come in, I thought Sané would, Bayern fought so hard to get Sané in the club, didn't they? They paid 70 million euros. They had to negotiate hard with Man City. He's probably one of the brightest young players in Germany. You just think that Sané will be their starting winger, same with Gnabry, because, again, they're young German players. But Koeman's just been in a place where you can't leave him out at the moment, and fair play to him.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when you look at Gnabry, he's 24, 25, something like that. It just seems to be around. I thought he'd been around forever, because I remember him playing for West Brom, Arsenal.
The guy who said wasn't good enough for West Brom is now tearing it up in the Bundesliga and Champions League.
Yeah. I mean, it's just absolute madness. But when you just mentioned Sané there, they did have to negotiate hard, but I do see him as sort of like a backup winger. I do see Koeman, Mr. Lisbon, as they call him, as the first choice starter along with Gnabry. I do see Sané as a sort of future investment, like a backup sort of thing. Well, the main two for me has got to be Kimmich and Goretzka. I mean, they're absolute rocks in that midfield. I mean, Goretzka's assisting more and more these days. Kimmich is hard as nails. He loves to jump into a tackle. And the break-up play very, very well. And then they've got Muller in front of him, who's a good option going forward as well. He's always open in space. And then, obviously, he's just came back from COVID-19 as well. So, well, not COVID-19. He did test positive, but he had never had symptoms.
Yeah.
So when you look at him in front of both Goretzka and Kimmich, it's just a good sort of little triangle sort of three players, very, very strong. And Muller's always looking for Lewandowski in space, and he proved that at the weekend when he came on and assisted with his first touch.
Yeah, Muller again. It's just about players who fit a system. What I've got to say about Bayern Munich over the last, for as long as I can remember, to be fair, they've always been a powerhouse, but certainly over the last sort of 5-10 years, they buy very well for a system. So they don't necessarily sign players who are world stars. They probably haven't quite got that budget, but they're very good at identifying what they want. And when they do identify what they want, they're very good at getting what they want, if you know what I mean. They're just a very well-run, well-organised club who spend money wisely. They buy very wisely. And Muller's another interesting one, very much like Koeman, but on sort of over a sort of longer period of time. He's had to resurrect his Bayern career. There's been times when it's looked like he may be sort of out the door. He didn't sort of fit what Bayern wanted anymore, Well, again, not wanting to keep going about Manchester United, but very heavily linked to Manchester United, especially.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
But, he is, to be fair to him, I think he's slightly adapted his game now so he can play a slightly different role. Like you say, he plays just behind Lewandowski, where at the time I think maybe he was wanting to be the centre forward, and that was probably the only way he could see himself getting in the team. That's probably why he's looking to move. But he's adapted his game now, and he's just what a great professional. So underrated, probably one of the most underrated players in Europe. Yeah,
he made his Bundesliga debut 10 years ago yesterday. Did you know that? 10 years ago.
And it feels like it's longer for me as well. He feels like he's been around longer.
Yeah, Muller assist, as they call him, or Radio Muller, because he's proper loud and noisy on the pitch. That's absolutely brilliant. But Bayern's defence, a bit tricky, bit inconsistent. As you mentioned before, I think Boateng is probably the weakest link out of that defence. He is getting on a bit. He's 32, 33 now, and they've got Upamecano coming in the summer. And just what you mentioned just there, I'm just going to touch on it. They are a very well-run club that do things really quietly. Like the Upamecano, I've seen sort of like a few tweets here and there, but like nothing was official until they actually announced it. Yeah. And I think all the big clubs around Europe were absolutely gutted when Bayern actually snapped them. And then there was rumours last week that Hasan Salihamidzic has put an inquiry into Napoli for Koulibaly. as a replacement for Alaba. So can you imagine Koulibaly and Upamecano as the defence next season?
Strong. What else can you say? Really, really strong. It would have everything, wouldn't it? I mean, you look at Upamecano and you look at his traits and his attributes. Powerful, quick, strong. Koulibaly, aerially, dominant, strong, and not bad on the ball. And Upamecano, not bad on the ball. I just think that would be a really good partnership. I mean, the only thing you say about Koulibaly is Napoli have been pretty consistent on the fact that they still want somewhere between 70 and 100 million for Koulibaly. And people forget he's 29, 30 this year. I think that is a lot of money to pay for a defender of his age. But like I said, if you think about him and Upamecano as a partnership and the money that they've had to pay for Upamecano is peanuts, really, considering what he's really worth. I think, they've really taken advantage of the release clause in his contract, and I think that's what all the other clubs around Europe wanted to do. I'm not going to mention Manchester United again because it's not a Manchester United video, but what I will say is, again, Manchester United, you look at them who wanting to build a defence around Maguire, he would have been the ideal partner for Maguire. He's got everything that Maguire lacks. But again, you know what I mean? When you go up against Bayern Munich in the transfer market, I don't care who you are, you're not going to win because they just when they want something, they go and get it. And like you said, they're very clever about how they go about it as well. Very sort of stealthy, very... You don't hear about it in the media. Like whenever the top clubs around Europe, Real Madrid, Manchester United, Man City, whenever they're in for players, it's all in the media. It all gets leaked. But Bayern seem to have a way of working behind closed doors, and they just have a confidence that when they want something, that they will get it. And you can't blame players for wanting to. Just look at it. You can't blame players for wanting to go there because you can have a lot of success, can't you? You know what I mean? You could see them winning another Champions League in a couple of years' time. The comment coming in there.
Oh, you see it, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the right back position, Nicolas Sula has got at the minute. Sulinho, as they're calling him, because he's got a few tricks up his sleeve and he looks like he's an attacking right back. But Benjamin Pavard obviously tested positive for COVID-19 as well. So he's going to probably be looking to come back, but I can't see him starting this game on Saturday either. Just obviously the way Sula's playing, he's playing very, very dominant, very tough to get past, and he stands up, he doesn't dive into challenges, and I think he's been heavily linked with Chelsea as well. Rumours are going around that Chelsea have sort of like made contact with Bayern about buying Nicolas Sula, which I hope they don't. I do see him as a sort of future centre back for Bayern Munich, but whether they sort of cash in and try and get someone else, I don't know. Manuel Neuer, the greatest goalkeeper ever, in my opinion. I'm not going to say much about him because he picks himself as well. What do you think of the new young lad that's just came through Bayern? And obviously, Dortmund have got their own youngster as well. They've got Yusuf Moukoko.
Moukoko,
Bayern have got Musiala.
Yeah, Dortmund, apart from Moukoko, I would look more towards, I've got to get my words out there. Gio Reyna is another very good talent coming through Borussia Dortmund, probably a little bit ahead of Moukoko. Difficult, really. Musiala, I mean, he's just pledged his future to the German national team. Apparently, he could have played for England, couldn't he? I don't really know much about his backstory. I do know that he looks a talent, and I think if Bayern Munich are giving opportunities to a player of his age in the Champions League as well, I think it sort of says a lot about his talent, and it's exciting. And look, that's another thing. You've got to look at the Bundesliga, and especially teams like Bayern Munich and Dortmund, and give them huge credit for what they do with young talent. I think that they've developed young talent so well over the sort of last 2 or 3, even English young talent. We look at. Look, I watched Callum Hudson-Odoi the last couple of weeks for Chelsea, and he's getting ridiculed by Tuchel. He's seen obviously his chances limited at Chelsea. I just think England may have had a real player on their hands if he'd have got that move to Bayern Munich a couple of years ago. I think he would have really kicked on at Bayern Munich. Look, I know it's a difficult position to get into Bayern's team because obviously you've got Gnabry there, you've got Coman, you've got Gnabry, Coman, and Sané. Yeah, of course, yeah. But I just think this was a couple of years ago, so he would have been there before these guys. So he would have had an opportunity to impress before when Coman wasn't doing so well, when Gnabry was just coming through, before they signed Sané. So I just think it would have been interesting to see how he done, because you look at Jadon Sancho, and I believe if Jadon Sancho had stayed at Man City, he'd have still only probably had a big part played to play at Man City. He wouldn't have played as regularly as he played at Dortmund. And there's no doubt the fact that he's been given these opportunities at Dortmund is the reason why he's kicked on as a player. He wouldn't be this player now if he was still sort of playing for the Man City under-23s and getting the odd game in the League Cup now and again, or the odd game against the Leicester team in the Premier League, like Phil Foden has done recently. And then, you look at Jude Bellingham going over there for Dortmund the last year or so, a player who is really highly thought of around Europe. So there's a reason why these young players are going to the Bundesliga. German teams are very good at giving players an opportunity regardless of age or nationality, to be fair to them. They're not frightened to bring young English players over and develop them as well, even though it may be the detriment to their national game. They still do it, and it's brilliant to see, really.
Yeah, I mean, you've just touched on the English players going over there. Obviously, Bayern have just signed Omar Richards from Reading as well.
Yeah.
Another, I think, 17, 18, 19-year-old, somewhere around about there.
Yeah.
But what do you think of Moukoko, as they call him? Yusuf Moukoko.
Yeah.
17, 18 years old, I think. 16, sorry.
Yeah.
17 this year.
Apologies for my pronunciation. I haven't got the grasp of the English language, let alone the others. Look, I haven't seen it.
Too long in Manchester, you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, kid. Everybody's just called kid up here, so it's like, so yeah, that's about as far as it goes. But no, Moukoko, he looks a great kid. No, to be fair to mate, I haven't seen a massive load of him. I haven't seen him play that much, but again, if at that age, if he's getting in this Dortmund team, especially in those attacking areas, he must be a talent, because, like I said earlier on in the show, all the Dortmund talent is at the top end of the field, and you have to be a good player to break into that. They're very, very good there, and all the reports coming out about him is that he is the next big thing. But we hear that about a lot of young players, don't we? And
yeah,
sometimes they kick on, sometimes no, they can't all be the next best thing, can they? So we'll have to see. The next couple of years will be key to his development. He'll definitely be at Dortmund for at least another 2 or 3 seasons. I don't see him moving anytime soon. Obviously there's talk that Sancho may leave this summer. So if he does, then obviously Moukoko's game time will go up, I would imagine.
How good are these two together?
They're not bad, are they? They're all right.
They're a little bit talented, really, aren't they, when you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, they score the odd goal now and again, don't they? They assist you. No, mate, they're fine. I mean, look, I think Erling Haaland's heir to the throne to Robert Lewandowski. I think he's the best number 9 in the world, aside from Lewandowski. I think Lewandowski's probably still got that title. Well, he definitely has he is still the best number 9. But then the next person for the next 10 years is going to be Haaland, without a doubt, in terms of what he does. The only difference with Haaland is I don't see Bayern doing what they've done with a few of Dortmund's good players and getting this one. I think Haaland sees his next move probably somewhere else in Europe. I think he wants to experience different football clubs, different football styles, and I think his next move will be England or Spain, but I think probably England. And look, the sky's the limit for him. He's just a striker who can score all types of goals, really. He's got all the attributes to be a big physical number 9, but he's also deceptively quite quick. He's technically very good. His finishing is unbelievable. That's why, people want him, because he's so deadly in front of goal, and that's what you want, really, from your number 9. Jadon Sancho, I always say, look, he's a generational talent. He struggled at the start of this season because I think the rumours from last year didn't do him any good, to be fair. I think he was convinced he was moving, and I think he liked the idea of a move. I think he's got unfinished business in England, and he wants to prove himself as an Englishman back in the Premier League, and I think he believes he can, and he's got people to prove wrong over there. So he struggled with the fact that move fell through, but look at him second half of the season at the moment. He's in great form. He's showing the form that he's shown over the last couple of seasons, and he's just very, very good. Again, his success rate for dribbling, shots, high-end, top quality. And if you're looking at the clubs around Europe that want him, especially my club, there's a massive gaping hole on the right-hand side, Kev. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's waiting for him to come and fill it. But again, because they didn't get that deal done last summer, I think there'll be more clubs at the negotiating table this summer. I think a lot of teams didn't spend a lot of money last year, so some clubs will have a bit more money to spend this summer. I think Chelsea are going to go big again this year, even though they went big last year. I think they'll go big again this year. I think they could rival United. I think that Liverpool front three is going to break up at some point as well. You know, they're not getting any younger. Mane, Salah, Firmino. So Liverpool may even be looking there. The Spanish clubs didn't spend a lot last year, so are they going to look to go again this year? And same with Haaland. You know, I think he's not going to be short of offers. You know, plenty of clubs are going to want him, and plenty of clubs are going to need him. If you look at all the top clubs in England, if even Man City, who are doing brilliant this year, if you look at one position they could do with improving, it would be their centre forward position at Man City. So, even they, who are 14 points clear at the top, are looking for a number 9 this summer. So, I think, the world's their oyster. They're fantastic players, and I think for the next 10 years, they'll be the best players in their positions.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been looking at Haaland's stats. He scored 17 goals in 18 games.
Yeah.
And 15 of them have come with his left foot. So clearly he's a left-footed striker, isn't he?
He is.
But he's absolutely prolific. I mean, he's 19, 20 years old? Yeah. And you just mentioned the world is his oyster. I mean, Bayern Munich have came out today and said that they can't afford him if they wanted him. But interestingly enough, Lewandowski's contract ends in June. I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, his contract's up in the 30th of June this year. So, I mean, does that tell you something? I mean, are they going to go fishing again? I don't know. Are they doing it under the radar?
Like I said to you earlier on, mate, I think he's slightly different. I think this guy is slightly different. I think he wants to do it somewhere else. I think by the time he leaves Borussia Dortmund, whether it be this summer or next summer, he'll have proved himself at that level. He won't have won it. That's the only thing you will say. He won't have won a league title. If he goes to Bayern Munich, he probably guarantees himself a few leagues while he's there, obviously. And does he guarantee himself a European Cup? Don't know. Obviously, Bayern won the European title last year. They look strong again this year, but there's never any guarantee. You don't look at the German teams and be like, I think they're nailed on this year. You do look at them and think, well, actually, if the draw works out for them, they probably will win it. I think, but it's a difficult one. And let's not forget, Haaland was born in England. His dad obviously played in England. His dad, and so I think he does have some affiliation to the Premier League. He's probably grew up watching the Premier League, watching his dad in the Premier League, obviously watching Premier League football. And I think there is a desire to do that. Now, whether he goes to Bayern and sort of thinks to himself, well, I'll sign a sort of 3, 4, 5 year contract, and then at the end of that, I'll move on. I don't think it's that easy, because I think maybe Lewandowski thought like that. But then when you do so well, and you perform and you're winning all the time, you sort of get in your comfort zone, don't you? And you don't look to move. So I think he may come to England. But I think, again, if it doesn't work out for him in England, then obviously he will then maybe come back to Germany. I don't know. I mean, it's so hard. It's hard to tell. And let's not forget as well, with Haaland, he's got an agent called Mino Raiola. Okay, so Mino Raiola is never looking for his players to go anywhere for the long term, to be fair. He's looking for players to go somewhere where they can get paid well, to raise their stock, and then move again so that they can then, go again and earn more money. When he brought Paul Pogba to Manchester United, Mino Raiola personally, and maybe Paul Pod himself, saw it as a 2 or 3 year move, prove themselves to be the class star that they are, and then they go to Real Madrid, Barcelona, and do it somewhere else. And this is what he'll want to do with Haaland. I think he'll want to move him around different leagues, show that he can do it, rise his stock, because I think clubs look at that. I think if teams see that they've done it in different leagues, I think that raises a player's stock. And I think,
yeah,
2 or 3 years'
like
time.
Ronaldo, for example.
Yeah, exactly. If in 2 or 3 years' time, if Haaland comes to England and he does fantastic, then Real Madrid will be willing to pay him probably more than he's getting, and willing to offer him a different type of football and to win leagues and European titles in a different nation. And Raiola is very good at moving his players around like that. So I think Mino Raiola will also play a big part in what Haaland does in his career, but that's probably another show for another day, because trust me, if you've not dealt with Mino Raiola, you could spend a whole show talking about Mino Raiola. So.
Okay. Obviously, I know I know just about the Paul Pogba incident. I don't really know anything else about Mino Raiola, if I'm honest. But yeah, just one more thing about it. Obviously, Robert Lewandowski, can't go without talking about him. I mean, the best centre forward in the world for me personally. If you look on his Wikipedia page and all the awards that he's got, is just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, his awards cabinet must be the size of my bedroom. It's just humongous.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, contract up in June. Interestingly enough, he's only 32. There's never been talk of him signing a new contract or anything like that, which I find a little bit odd, unless they're doing it all under the radar. But I don't think many people know that his contract runs out in June. I don't think some of the big clubs know.
He's quite relaxed about the whole situation, because he knows that Newcastle are looking for a number 9. So I think, yeah. No, look, Robert Lewandowski, again, a little bit like when you put Haaland and Sancho up there. What can you say? Just a fantastic striker that scores all types of goals. I think that's why what I want from my number 9, when I look at a number 9, and there's not a lot of them around in the world now. There are a lot of strikers that wear number 9, but are not what I would call number 9 strikers. Lewandowski is what he has been for the last 4 or 5 years, is head and shoulders the best number 9 in Europe. And what I want from my number 9 is a striker that scores all types of goals. So, he's a threat in the box aerially. He can score. He's got the instinct to get in on, tapping goals and things like that. When it's a bit scrappy in the box, he's in the right place at the right time. He's got the ability to score goals outside the box, score goals just inside the box, from all different angles. Yeah. There's not a weakness. There's not a time. You wouldn't look at Lewandowski and be like, actually, he's good at this, but he doesn't do this very well. There's no goal he doesn't score. And when you look at him play, he has that presence about him now that he lifts everybody around him as well. I feel like, people look at him and you can see him. He's very demanding of his teammates. He's quite a stroppy player, I think, as well, in terms of if it's not getting the service or think they aren't playing well, you do see him sort of getting angry on the pitch. He just has that about him where I think he just makes everyone else better around him, and he's absolutely fantastic. I can't speak any higher of him. And even at 32, wherever he goes next, I think if he doesn't stay at Bayern, someone's going to have a top-class striker on their hands still for another 2 or 3 years, because his game's quite easy, Kev. It's quite effortless. Yeah. It doesn't require a lot of energy or a lot of hard work. He just finds space. He's very clever in his movement.
Just mooches around the box.
Yeah, exactly. And you could see him going somewhere like Italy, maybe. And I think if he goes to Italy, he'll score a ton of goals, because the game over there is much slower, much less physical, and he'll be fine. And he'll score plenty of goals in a good Italian side.
Yeah. He averages a goal, every 67 minutes? I mean, it's absolutely bananas that. I mean, he's scoring with every 3 shots. 1 in 3 shots is going in. It's just unbelievable. That I never thought I'd see a striker in my lifetime with them sort of stats, but to watch Lewandowski up personally a few years ago, I mean, that was just an experience in itself. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
Well, what bigger compliment could you want than a fan who supports Newcastle, who had a striker called Alan Shearer saying that, really? I mean, it says it all, doesn't it? The fact that you can look at Lewandowski and think that even he is just like on another level. And I just wonder as well, Kev, if he's in line to win the Ballon d'Or, because we saw, I think he won at the latest UEFA awards. I think he won the golden or the top player in them awards. I don't know what they call it, but it's usually
the best FIFA men's player.
Yeah, and sometimes that's a good prerequisite in terms of replicating it and winning the Ballon d'Or. I mean, you look at Ronaldo and Messi, they've been off their usual high levels, still very, very good, but obviously they've been slightly off it last couple of years. And obviously Lewandowski's helped Bayern with this dominance that they've had in Germany and in Europe winning Champions League. You just wonder whether he may grab it this year, and then that will obviously cement his legacy for me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. But obviously, like, he's got 28 goals, 22 games this season. He's going to hit the 30 goal a season mark again, but he's after Gerd Muller's record of 40 goals in a season. Yeah. So if he breaks that, he's got to win the Ballon d'Or, surely.
Yeah, you would think so, wouldn't you? Because again, I think what they look for when they do these awards is not just the player themselves, but what have they achieved along with how well they've played. So sometimes you look at Ronaldo and you think, like the year he won the Euros, you think to yourself, well, he's probably not necessarily been the best player in the year, but he's actually just helped his country win a major tournament. And you look at Lewandowski and you think, well, okay, there's lots of fantastic players in that Bayern team, and let's not be mistaken. They didn't win that Champions League just because of Lewandowski. They won it because they had a lot of good players there, but he's been a part of that. So they've won a European Cup. It's not like they win them every year either. So it's the first one they won in a while. They've obviously been dominant in Germany. The Muller record, again, the Gerd Muller is obviously a very well-renowned name within FIFA. If he breaks the record like that, that's the sort of thing that they're going to look at and be like, well, has anyone else had a milestone like that in the last 12 months? People will say, well, Ronaldo's obviously in this 12-month span, he's had that. Well, there's debate whether he's now the highest goal scorer of all time, isn't there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, they might look at Ronaldo and look at that, but I think you've got to give it Lewandowski this year. I think he deserves recognition for being the number 9 that he's been, not just this year, but over the last decade or so. Yeah,
I totally agree with that. So what do you think the score will be for two possession-based teams going out attacking each other Saturday evening, 5:30, BT Sport? Are we looking at a Bayern win by a couple of goals, or what do you think? I reckon 3-0 Bayern. I'm going to go that.
No, I'm going for a comfortable 6-0 to Dortmund. No, I said to you earlier, look, like you said, the games have been close the last couple of years, but I do think that this one will be slightly different. I think on the whole, you can look at the current form and you're right to say that Dortmund have improved. Bayern maybe have had a couple of dubious results in there, but don't forget when they had their dubious results, it was around coming back from the Club World Cup when everybody can be a bit dodgy coming back from them, because where they schedule it in the middle of the season is absolutely crazy, and it does throw teams off a bit and they have to rotate. So I think you saw with obviously the game against Lazio in the Champions League last week, they got somewhere back near to the best. They followed that up at the weekend, and again, I think like you, I think they'll be comfortable. Maybe not 3-0. I could see Dortmund scoring, so I think I'll go for 3-1.
That's interesting. Obviously, just what you've just touched on Lazio there, I thought that would have been a really big test in the Champions League, given Lazio.
Especially the form around there. They got back to a couple of bad results.
Yeah, I mean, when I seen 4-1, I thought, well, that's the tie-over, basically. I mean, Lazio got to come to Munich and score, 4 goals? That's just, it's not going to happen, basically. So, I mean, you mentioned before, it depends how the draw goes, whether they get really far in the competition and even win it again. But we'll just have to wait and see. But I'm going to stop this here because I'm going to go and watch the Chelsea game. But Joe,
much more exciting than listening to us talk. Have the Chelsea game, put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I want to watch Liverpool get battered again. That's what I want. So
you're not the only one. You're not the only. Although with United's current form, I'm quite happy to take a point tonight. I think, to be fair.
Well, you never know. I mean, everything's inconsistent this season and unpredictable. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Newcastle's got a good couple of results tonight. Fulham got beat. West Brom got beat. So our fate is in our hands, unfortunately. West Brom Sunday. That's for us. So big game. Yeah. So and Joe, thank you very much as always. A pleasure talking to you. Anytime you want to chat, if you've got anything on your head, if you want to get it off, by all means, give us a shout, okay?
Yeah, I will do, mate. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a great channel, this, and anyone who's watching out there, do give it a subscribe. Some fantastic content with some great lads. Cheers, mate.
Thank you. What he said. He's that way. He said.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Mate, don't worry about on these cameras. I'm like, yeah.
Thanks, Joe. See you later.
See you later, mate. Cheers. Thank you. Bye.